Well, good morning again. So after doing some research last night and finding out the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, I knew the truck was tuned, but I didn't know the extent to which it was tuned. And I expect that that's why it wasn't setting a fault code for this thing being stuck, because the code is probably masked. Now, I found a video last night, which I wish I'd seen before on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description, where this would routinely stick shut and cause a no start condition like we had. And the fix is to remove the blade. Because the EGR is turned off, I believe, and the codes are masked, just simply remove the blade. There's two T15 screws here, and it could actually be done on the vehicle. This sits like so on the vehicle, and it should be open. Now, if I'd known that, I would have just tapped harder and opened it. So we're going to remove the blade. We're going to reassemble this thing, and hopefully that's going to start. So remove the two screws and slide the blade out. We're going to clean this up with some combustion chamber cleaner, and we're going to reassemble this thing. Well, I'm not going to lie, that's a challenge to get in there. You have to put the motor end down at an angle this way and then push the electric motor towards the right fender and reconnect the connector. And then bolt back up again. Very, very challenging. It barely comes out of there. I thought I was going to have to pull the intake off yesterday. Now this solenoid screw came out, but we're going to thread it back in exactly the same way as it came out. It's just an insert in the plastic manifold, but I don't see a problem with that. It's just to hold the solenoid. I'll plug the temp sensor in after. Put some dielectric grease on the O-ring seal on the pipe here. And then slip this back on. Make sure it's locked in place. Okay, we'll continue here. Okay, so it's all together. Air filter, cleaner and assembly on, induction hoses on. Let's see if it starts. Well, it's funny how lack of air will prevent the engine from running. So I'm going to put the scanner on it and record some data so I have it for reference. I'm curious about that mass airflow sensor reading. So now the airflow shows 512 millimeters per cubic injection on the left side, and 51 milligrams per HUB, whatever that unit is. I searched all over the internet last night looking for it. Found lots of guys talking about it, but nobody explaining it. I've never seen it. It's always been grams per second or liters per hour or something like that. But I'm gonna shut it off, turn the key back on, and record it while it's cranking. Goes to 0, both go to 0. Let's try and crank it. And they both go positive, they don't go negative. So maybe that was a sign that there was no airflow into the engine. Maybe it's expecting to see airflow and it's not, so it shows that as a negative symbol. That's weird. And fuel pressure is over 4,000. Fuel rail pressure 4194. 41, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. It's running fine now. I fixed the temp sensor wiring that was butt connected, and I'm going to put this engine cover back on, and let's see if there's any codes. Charge air cooler temperature circuit high. Oh, I think I had that temp sensor disconnected. Yeah, I did have it disconnected with the key on. And I had the throttle body out, so I'm going to clear those codes. And I got to do that key on, engine off. So that's it for now. I'm going to go and look at some of this data. So I just came back from a 10-kilometer road test. The truck runs perfect. No warning lights on. I monitored this throttle valve actuator command, and it didn't change throughout the entire recording, but that could be because of the tune that's in it. I can't explain why that throttle valve jammed shut, but it was jammed solid, and I don't know if that has something to do with the electronic tuning that's been done to this thing, but it can't jam anymore. It would be cool if this is the throttle actuator command, if the data list included the throttle actuator position, the actual versus the command, then you'd be able to see it. Now, I'm not sure if that's an omission on Snap-on's part. In other words, another scan tool might have it. I didn't see it in the data list. I went through the entire data list. But I'm going to save this recording of this road test, so I've got some benchmark numbers and reference numbers to look back to in the future if I need to. I hope I don't have to work on another one of these things. So at the beginning of this fiasco, I had built a custom data list, and I picked throttle valve actuator. But going through the data list here, I see a couple of other data parameters that may have aided the diagnosis here. For instance, and I selected them just now, but of course it's running now, so I won't be able to tell if they would have been helpful. Is throttle in required position? I hadn't selected that because I didn't see it. Snap-on, we need a keyword search for data parameters. Search for the word throttle, I would have pulled that up. There was one other one I saw, error on throttle valve. I hadn't selected that. So let's see what those show right now. Error on throttle valve, false. So I'm curious if that would have been true because the valve wasn't where it was supposed to be. And is throttle in required position? True. Damn, I wish I could go back, and that's what happens when you build a custom data list. You might miss something relevant, but that speeds up the refresh rate, as you can see down here, because I'm only recording about a third of the data parameters, but then you have to pick the appropriate data parameters, and sometimes you don't really know. Oh well, I'm going to save this list as well. Food for thought. Know what to look for next time. I hope there never is a next time. Thanks for watching.